group I've had so far this semester. Okay, Lexi, can you hear me okay? Yes, thumbs up. Hi, Courtney. So good to see you. Keith, can you hear me okay? Can I get a thumbs up?
Yeah, I got you. You're a little soft.
Little soft. Let me use the mics. Where are the mics? Where'd they go? What is that?
I really like your gear, Chief. We should have planned better.
Yeah, I'm working from home, so it's easy to wear whatever.
All right, can you hear me better? Is that a little better? Okay, great. I'll keep my mic on. Awesome. We can hear you great. All right, so I've got another. Hi, Parker.
Hello, Sharon.
It's fantastic to see you.
You as well.
Awesome. And hi, Aaron. It's nice to meet you. And Rachel, it's nice to meet you as well. Welcome. So our panel is here. We're going to get started. I am Sharon Vogler. For those of you who don't know who I actually just have a new title that hasn't been broadcasted across the university yet, but I'm the new director of Alumni Career Development. I know, I'm so excited. And so part of what I get to do in this new role is find opportunities to connect students with our alumni. Right? So this fits perfectly into my new role, which is something that I started in my old role as Director of Career Services for our pre-experience programs here in the business school. So we're going to keep doing these panels. We've got one more left for this semester. We're going to have a whole new series next semester. They'll all be different topics, so I do hope that you'll pay attention and attend as many as you can. The last one, if I can have a shameless plug, is next Thursday, the 2nd of November, and it is Careers in Human Resources. And so still gathering our alumnus to participate on that panel, but if you have any thought about what human resources is all about, then you should absolutely try to attend next Thursday. Same time. I'm not sure what's going to be for lunch, but it'll be something great. It should be yummy, regardless, right, of what it is. And so great. So welcome to my panelists. So we've gathered some alums from the School of Business and outside of the School of Business to tell us about their roles and how they were able to get those roles and what they do on a daily basis. So it's a very diverse group of panelists. You're going to hear a lot of different things. And I encourage you all to ask questions. We've got a full panel, so it's going to take us, a good part of this session just to get intros and some baseline knowledge out to everyone. So I'll get started. And Parker, you're on the screen, so we're going to start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself? And for our panelists, like I said, we have students from the business school across all programs, and we have a freshman in the room who doesn't know what he's going to major in. And we've got a senior comms major, senior political science major, and sophomore political science. I'm sure it's political science too. Okay, good. So we've got kids from the university, kids from the business school, freshmen, all the way up to master's programs. So introduce yourself, Parker, if you would, and tell them where you went to undergrad, what your major was, the program you were in, and what you did.
So I went to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, just on the other side of downtown there in Winston. And I was in the Lighting Design and Technology class to come from the production and theater side of entertainment. I was in the class of 2022 NSM program, which was a great transition to what I do now. So now I'm a project manager at Sesco Lighting, which we're a sales rep agency for lighting products. So I focus on the entertainment aspect, and I am based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Currently, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, though. So
not too shabby. So a slam dunk, right? Right in from a liberal arts background into business, and now he's using both of those things to do some pretty interesting projects. So it's great to see you. Courtney, we'll go to you next.
Hi everyone, my name is Courtney. I went to undergrad at Furman University and got my degree in applied math, and then I went and did the MSBA program at Wake Forest. And from there, I moved to Las Vegas, which is where I currently live and where I currently am. And I'm currently a revenue management analyst for Cirque du Soleil.
So cool. What did you do? What was your first job? It wasn't with Cirque du Soleil. It was Caesars?
Yeah, my first job right after the MSBA program was with Caesars Entertainment. I was a hospitality analyst, and I also worked then in iGaming as well. So I've got sort of a diverse background in the specific Las Vegas entertainment space as an analyst.
Lots of entertainment going on in Las Vegas. All right, Rachel. But we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. Hi, so my name is Raquel. I went to undergrad at Wake, graduated 2018. I was in the business co-ed, did the BEM major, and my minor was political science. And right now I'm based in New York, and I work at Disney as an associate account executive.
Very cool. Aaron, welcome. It's so nice to meet you.
Hey everybody, I'm Aaron. I went to Wake Forest as an undergrad. I graduated in 2015. And currently I work in entertainment, so I work in the production side. So I've worked as an assistant director, second AD, in the costumes department, props department. I was done a lot of big shows, and I'm currently working as an associate producer. And we'll be going to Chicago to shoot a film once all this strike gets done. I've had quite a diverse background, just working on different sets. So, currently an associate producer working in TV and film.
And what was your major while you're here at Wake?
So I majored in communications and minored in dance.
Very cool. And so your role is on strike? Are you on strike? Or are you just holding off until they figure it out?
So currently for producers, we're technically not on strikes. Right now we can work on developing projects. And since the Writers Guild has kind of come in towards the end of their strike and ready to vote on their negotiation, we've actually started opening up writers' rooms. And so currently we have some writers writing, and then once we get the episodes or feature film, then we start as producers to go through and start to then build everything from there. So I also have my own media company where I produce and direct indie films. So I've also just been doing that for the last couple of months while things were kind of down.
Wow, that's complicated. We'll get back to that in just a second. Lexi, it's so good to see you.
Hi there. Hi, I'm Lexi Swift-Sindel. I graduated in 2005. Actually a double deep. My husband also went to undergrad at Wake. He's not in media, he's in finance. And I am based in New York. I'm actually in the same building as Raquel. We didn't know we were both in there, so we're just slacking. Next time we'll do it together. And I also work at Disney, and I'm a VP of addressable sales, which is just a fancy way of saying that I'm in charge of everything that's digital, so across our entire streaming portfolio, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, Freeform, FX, Nat Geo, ABC News, Disney Kids, so a lot of different properties, and as well as social and display.
Well, let's stay there. And so to break that down for people who might not be that familiar with what digital ad sales is for a company as large as Disney, and how your work is impactful to how we consume it, just as as consumers of those platforms.
So it's actually pretty simple. If you're on one of those streaming platforms and you see an ad, it's likely that Raquel or myself touched it in some way. And so, our roles focus on making sure that we're helping advertisers meet their KPIs. We're making sure that they're running where they want to. And in some cases, we're working on larger marketing partnerships, like when they're sponsoring a show like The Bear on Hulu and also Linear, that they're getting sort of the experience they want as part of that partnership.
Okay, so I watched The Bear. I loved it, one of my favorites of the year. And so what advertiser did you work with to co-brand that series?
Well, we actually had a bunch of advertisers for that series. So there's probably 15, 20 different brands, but all Fortune 500 companies, I would say, is where it's been the majority of my time. So, folks like United Airlines or Coca-Cola or just any of the big advertisers, that's who we're really spending our time with, as well as we have other facets of our business that I don't particularly work on. But we have things like self-service, where if you're a small advertiser, you still have the opportunity to work with Disney, but it's more in a self-service capacity where you would go and book those impressions by yourself. We also have automated opportunities where someone is, again, sort of more in the self-service vein. So we work with a whole range of advertisers, but where my focus is most of the larger advertisers.
Got it. And so do they work with other agencies or perhaps even have internal marketing teams that then put the ads? You as the platform aren't designing ads. They're just giving you that collateral, and then you're putting it where they bought, right?
Sometimes we are. It depends. I don't know if anyone saw the Allstate Toy Story integration from a few weeks ago, but sometimes we are working with advertisers to come up with either custom content or custom advertising. A lot of times it is sort of that ad you would see on traditional linear television, but on our social platforms we'll work on something maybe a little bit more custom. And to answer your question, in our roles, we work not only with the marketers themselves, the brand managers at many of these clients, we'll also work with their creative agencies as well as their media agencies to make sure that we have all the expertise in the room to have a successful campaign.
And who are the big players? If one of these students is maybe interested in going the agency route and they want to work on these big brands, what are some of the big players that you work with that they should look at?
There are 6 big holding companies that are in the marketplace, and I can send it to you. Those are sort of like the big 6. So it's WPP, Magna, PMX, Dentsu, Horizon, and OMD are the really big ones, or Omnicom Media. But I would say there's a ton of opportunity outside of those big 6. There's independent agencies, there's multicultural agencies, there's social agencies, there's out-of-home agencies. So if you're interested in sort of being on that side of the business, there's tons of direction you can go in it.
A lot of it is in New York.
A lot of it is in New York, but I would say Chicago and Los Angeles are also hubs, as well as Detroit. And in my prior role, I was a part of Hulu and came into Disney via the acquisition of Hulu. I had the Southeast as part of my responsibility, and there are a lot of agencies also, in Atlanta. There's a lot of clients in Atlanta, as well as North Carolina.
Super helpful. Yeah, if you'll drop those in an email to me, I'll make sure this group has them. Parker, tell us about some current projects that you're working on, and how did you get to Cisco? Tell us about some current projects and then that process to get that job.
Was that for me?
Yeah, Parker, yep.
Okay. We still have Courtney and Keith, by the way.
Yeah. I forgot Keith. Keith. Oh, yeah.
I'll jump in and quickly introduce myself, and then Parker, I'll send it over to you for the next question. I'm Keith Rolls. I'm class of 2015. I was a DEM manager that focused in on international business while I was at Wake. Let's see, I currently work at EA Sports as a senior product manager on our Madden NFL product. So a lot of my role is working on our franchise and superstar mode in getting our player base, how do we get the right features and the right product organization to really drive engagement and monetization.
Very cool. Let's stay there. And I'm sorry I skipped over you, Keith. My apologies. So tell us about how you were able to get your job at EA Sports. Do you call it EA Sports?
Yeah, you can call it EA Sports, Electronic Arts, for those that might not be familiar. That's a great question. I think I didn't come from a background of entertainment. My career journey is one that started at Wake, where I really figured out what I enjoyed working on, and it was really those creative and innovative type of projects where I got to flex those skill sets. And I think that it was Michelle Stewart's class. I'm not sure if she's still at Wake, but she had a marketing class that basically we created a pet product. And that pet product was kind of the inspiration for me to get a job that had innovation and creativity at the forefront. In my career, my first job was at FedEx, where I got to create my own product and launch that. And I gained some really awesome skills on how to understand your customer and build towards their needs. But after that, I wanted to go a little bit faster, so I went the tech route, joined Wayfair. They had a new reverse logistics organization that just started up, which is just a fancy way of saying returns. And I worked there on trying to redefine how they do their return system. But I worked with a lot of smart people there that had an MBA, and they told me to go out and get one. And I listened to them. I heeded their advice, and that's how I landed at my current role, where I was really focused in on product management and figuring out ways that I can elevate my career in becoming innovative and working through innovative products. So I applied through LinkedIn. I saw an awesome message there that said, hey, we have internships. Apply through that during my MBA program, and pretty much just told them how passionate I was for the game. I think my best advice for you guys is whenever you go out for anything, be enthusiastic and tell those stories that illustrate your passion.
So the first job, right, might not have been the dream job, right? You had 2 steps in an MBA to get to EA Sports, working on products there. Can you tell us about a current project that you're working on? I know you said you work on the football. Yeah.
I work on basically what should be the features in our upcoming games, so Madden 25, but also looking at our live service products. So one of the things I have on my to-do list for this week is we are trying to figure out how do we increase our revenue through store visibility. So looking at the different functions and buttons in the game and how are players pressing them, and if there are different A/B tests that we can go out and try to see if we can move the needle there on monetization.
Where did you get your MBA?
At Emory University in Atlanta.
Do you live in Atlanta now? Are you in?
I do live in Atlanta now, and I work full-time remote.
Full-time remote. And where's EA based out of?
I support our Tiburon studio, so the Madden team is in Orlando, but we have offices in San Francisco and LA as well.
Okay, very cool. All right, I'm going to tee it back to Parker. Parker, what's on your to-do list this week? Tell us about a project you're working on.
So I'm actually down here in Fort Lauderdale looking at a new resort that we're working on. So a lot of what I do on the lighting side is I specialize in the entertainment and color changing aspects of projects. So we work with a lot of developers, architects, engineers, and they say, hey, we want to do something cool or a performance space here. So a lot of it's working with designers and various different stakeholders to help develop that kind of project. So I work throughout the Southeast, primarily in the Carolinas and Tennessee, but I'll go wherever our footprint is, which is Louisiana, Arkansas, all the way over to Tennessee, North Carolina down. So a lot of it's trying to look at, what we need from a technical standpoint to make the job happen, but also, we are a sales agency, so how are we going to, pull the most amount and squeeze the most amount of cash out of that project so we can get paid.
Yeah, make the money.
So.
Very cool. So you're traveling a lot.
Not a terrible amount. I primarily stay within North and South Carolina, but once a month or so, I'll go somewhere.
Well, very cool. And tell, if you could, but how did you get that job? Because it just sounds like a very cool job. A way to
Yeah. So Sesco was not in North Carolina just over a year ago. And 6 months ago, we weren't even in Louisiana, Arkansas. So we're on a very fast growth trajectory right now, which is great. So when I finished the MSN program, I wanted to stay within the Carolinas. I just wanted to. So I talked to a couple different friends and alumni, and I said, hey, I kind of stay in this area. And one guy said, hey, you really need to go talk to Sesco because they're staffing up quick. We have over 100 people just in North Carolina now. So it is, I'm got to be a part of that growth from that acquisition. But so yeah.
So through your network.
Yes.
Beautiful word. My favorite word. Maybe not be. It might not be your favorite word, but it's a very important part of the job search process. All right, Courtney, let's hear about Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas. What are you currently working on?
Yeah, so right now, one of our big things we're working on is gearing up for Black Friday, deciding what those deals are going to be, what our promotions are going to be. And so my role in that is a lot of determining what's the right discount, what's the right approach that's going to look like an enticing deal without just handing things away for too low. So I've been doing a lot of, as they call it, consultant math. So giving estimated ranges of how many tickets we're going to sell at what price and how much revenue that's going to generate. And I also do a lot of streamlining on reporting, which may not sound like the most exciting thing in the world, but as an analyst and as someone who my entire education is spent around numbers, I love finding efficiencies to make reporting not take up my entire day. So that's a little bit of what I do.
What technology are you using? What technology are you using to do this work? We've got some MSBAs in the room.
Yeah, so we use a lot of Power BI. So when I'm building dashboards, we use Power BI. My last job, we used Tableau and Looker Studio, so I've kind of learned all the dashboarding thing, which is my huge piece of advice is get proficient in dashboarding. If you are in the MSBA program and you want to be an analyst, it's going to be super beneficial to you. So I use a lot of that. I use SQL. Right now we're using SSMS SQL Server, and mostly Excel. So just seemingly simple formulas, but they can take you a long way, and a little bit of VBA automation as well.
Can't sleep on Excel. Can't sleep on it. All right, Raquel, since we heard a lot from Lexi about what you guys are doing up there in New York, tell, if you could, describe the process of getting that seat. How did you find the job? What was the recruiting process like? And best advice on how to get a job with Disney.
So, I actually started on the agency side right out of college, and I initially applied to a media strategy role with Group M, and I ended up getting an interview request for a media buying role, which I didn't really know what that meant at the time, so I tried to do as much research as possible, and I showed up to the interview, and I ended up getting the job, which basically, for those that don't know, media buying just like is the agency that represents clients and does all the buying of commercials on their behalf. So I was there for about a year, and I wanted to change, and we worked really closely with a lot of networks, Disney being one of those. So I did have people that I knew that worked over on this side, specifically ESPN. So I just asked around and see if there was some open positions, and there were, but I had to do a lateral move in order to come over. But I mean, it wasn't ideal, but I just knew at the time that like this night is where I wanted to be. So I decided that I was going to do the lateral move, and then I came over as an account management and manager on Freeform, and then I worked my way up to a planner on ABC, and now I'm in sales. And once you're in sales, you sell cross portfolio, so all our networks in both linear and digital.
Who's your biggest client?
Verizon.
Verizon. Very good.
Yeah.
Very interesting. All right, very cool. So again, not her first job out of school, but her second job out of school. She used her network, right, to learn about jobs there at Disney. All right, Aaron has a very different and diverse background, and so I did some research on Aaron when I asked him to be on the panel, and I thought, wow, super interesting. So walk us through it, Aaron. You graduated, or maybe you did some things while you were still in school that set you up for success. So how have you put together this portfolio career, as I like to call them?
So when I was at Wake Forest, I believe Lori Sykes was in the OPCD,
Still here.
and she's still there. Oh, that's crazy. So we started doing career treks to different cities. I did 2 career treks to New York twice. The first time I went, I did the fashion, and it was fashion and something else. So we went around to a lot of the big fashion houses, and then to like Ann Taylor and different places like that. And we were meeting with some Wake Forest alumni there. I think it was fashion and PR, And so through that career track, I actually got my first internship at a PR company in New York. And so then that summer, I was a PR intern at Goodman Media International, and I got that internship through a former dancer at Wake Forest. In my senior year at Wake Forest, when I did the career track, I did to New York City, and through that career track, a previous theater major that I did was working at an agency called Jack Morton Worldwide in New York, and literally on that career track, I got offered a job from Jack Morton, because I was very intentional. I was like, brother needs a job. I was on these career tracks really making sure that I made the connections and networks that I needed to make so that I could have a job before graduation. So the day of graduation, I moved right to New York. I walked off the stage, literally walked to my car, drove home, flew to New York that night, and started work that next week. And actually did a few of these. Then I was on the other side of the career tracks as one of the panelists. For kids coming to New York and coming to have the same experience. And so I was at Jack Morton for a little while, and my main client there was IBM, Estee Lauder, and Captain Morgan, and I worked as a production coordinator for those accounts. And then I became an associate producer there, and this was more corporate, so not really TV, film yet. So these were a lot of trade shows, these were a lot of just creative briefs and things that we were doing for them. And so part of my job was hiring the video and audio guys to come into the trade shows when we were doing these events, mainly for IBM, because we did a lot of live events for them. And so through that, I met a few guys that I worked on some shows in New York, and then they were like, "You would be a great producer in TV and film." So I was like, "Well, look me up." So that way, I did my first show in New York. Then I moved back to Atlanta. The first show that I did here was The Staircase on HBO. So on that, I worked as a producer's assistant and a director's assistant and a house assistant, so I had 3 roles that I was playing that I put myself up for because I was a little overeager, I guess. But through that, I got to meet some of Hollywood's top producers and executives over at HBO, over at A24, which, they did everything over all at once. I started making those connections. I'm the kind of guy that will email someone once a month, every month, whether they respond or not. And so I think I became annoying a little bit.
We'll call it gregarious. Why don't we call it gregarious instead of annoying?
Yeah, but in a good way. Like, I made sure I showed up to work and I did the things that I needed to do so that these people would remember me, because in TV and film, you're just as good as your next job, right? It's just as hard as a producer or a crew member to get a job as it is as an actor or a director. And so I made sure that I stayed in contact with all these producers, directors, even some of the cast. Like, I've had casts from other shows pitch me as producers for other shows that I've done, right? And so through that, I kind of got more into the creative producing world, where I started coming in and working with the story development, so working with showrunners, working with writers, and then starting to help build and craft different stories in that way. And so one of the recent things I did that about is the Beanie Babies movie on Apple TV. I was probably the 6th person hired onto that. And through that, I was able to be a part of the story creative process, part of the casting process, and was going to end up helping producing on that, but I decided to take a left turn and go into costume design, because I kind of was just like, in order to be a better producer, I need to know how these different departments run on set, and I need to know how they really run on a daily basis. So shout out to Apple. They let me jump around from department to department. So I did like 2 months in costumes, did a month in props. I did a few weeks in the grip department, and then towards the end of the show, ended back up on the producing side of things. And then, like I said, I just kept emailing those producers once a month, every month. Sometimes they would respond, sometimes they didn't. I actually had a director say to me, he was like, I'm really happy that you do this, because sometimes I get so bogged down with other things that I lose track of things. So the fact that your name is constantly ending up in my inbox, from that, it was able to get over to Tyler Perry Studios, where his 2 new movies that are coming out in January, 688, and Man Koopa with Kerry Washington and Oprah Winfrey. That's how I got over to Tyler Perry. And it has been a whirlwind, but a dream come true thus far. And really, that is, I think I really learned at Wake Forest that networking and connecting yourself to people organically will get you further. Because I don't interview, guys, just to put that out there. We don't really interview in TV and film, not on set. You literally, the phrase, you have to know someone that knows someone, is almost 100% true. When I started to climb the ladder of producing a little bit more, there was some interviews and things had, but really, like yesterday, I got a call from a producer to work on a movie in Chicago in March, but like, that's how it is. You can't connect with people and network with them well, especially in my industry, on this side of things, in entertainment. You won't be hired. And that's not fun.
That is an amazing story, Aaron, and I'm like have chills on my spine hearing about that grit and that resilience that's built here at Wake Forest. There's not a student here that hasn't had to, dig deep in some capacity, in some project or some class, and that grit and that hard work and that determination is what has gotten all of these people, right, into these really they're dream jobs, right? And I hope that the sense that you're getting is that this next job, right, or the first job after school is not going to be the dream. The dream is free. The hustle is what's going to cost you, right? There's a quote out there about that. And so, wow, Aaron, what's the most famous person you've met?
Well, I mean, there's been quite a few. Colin Firth, Sophie Turner, Helena Bonham Carter, Toni Collette, Tyler Perry, Kerry Washington, Oprah, got Arnold Schwarzenegger, Patrick Schwarzenegger, Olivia, she's a really good friend of mine, and she played Elvis's wife in the Elvis movie. I think what she just said is, once again, is true. Like, where you start off sometimes really does not matter where you end up, and I never would have thought leaving Wake Forest that I would be having these kind of conversations and in these kind of rooms. The list goes on, but I would say I'm the most famous person I've met, okay?
So, what's the dream? What's the next? What's if I could do this next, this is going to be like unreal. Like, what's the goal?
The goal for me next is actually to pitch my own show. And so I have been working those contacts and those people, especially some studio execs that I've met along the way. And once I finish this next movie, I've already I've got a pitch deck, I've got my show Bible, I've got my one sheeter, and I've got my list of producers and directors and some cast with some really great name people that are looking into the show that I have been developing almost for about 10 years. And now I feel like I'm in a place in my career where I can actually go knock on some doors and those doors be open and I at least get a meeting. And so, I'm kind of looking towards that. It's exciting. It's a lot of nerves and a lot of fear, but then that means I'm doing the right thing and I'm stepping into it. So,
we'll be rooting for you from Wake Forest, from Winston-Salem. And so, super cool. We're going to get into ways students can connect with you in just a minute. Courtney, this next question is for you. Tell, if you could, your first job was with Caesars. Can you kind of give the room an idea of what the interview process was like? Like, you applied through this platform. You got a call from this person. You went through this, and this to get that first job.
Yeah, so I got the first job through Handshake. It was just a simple send us your resume and we'll be in contact sort of thing. So when I saw that, it was just like among all the other like hundreds of applications I was sending in that I just had to send my resume, I was like, sure, let's apply to this. And I didn't have any intention specifically of moving to Las Vegas. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I didn't really have the West on my radar at all. But I graduated in 2021, so the job market was still kind of not great. And so I was like, I'm just going to start looking all over the country. So they reached out to me. I did a panel interview first with 3 people. One of them ended up becoming my director at one point. And from that interview, I kind of just knew that was going to be the job. It was very comfortable. I thought interviewing in front of a panel for that interview was going to be terrifying, but it felt so much more like a casual conversation than a lot of one-on-one interviews did. So that I ended up really liking. And then from there, I did like sort of a project. It was mostly just like, it was a simple SQL question and then like a quick thing in Excel just to show that you know how to use like a sum if and make a graph. And then talked through that with a VP who ended up becoming my VP. And from there, that was it. So that was just 2 interviews to get the first one. And then I transferred teams within Caesars, which was another series of 2 interviews, sort of the same idea of like an initial kind of screening to get the feelers and then an Excel and SQL test. And then in my current job, it was a series of 3 interviews. So first one was just with HR, the next one was with the business intelligence team, so a little bit more technical, and then the third one was with the VP to go through a quick little Excel thing, or it was Excel, and I put it into a slideshow to present, just to know, to get to know like how you think about things, is really the most important thing. Like a lot of jobs, especially in this space, like they don't expect you to come in knowing everything, which I think is really lovely, especially if they know they're looking for college students. Like my first job was recruited through their campus recruitment team, so they knew this was an entry-level position. They didn't expect me to know anything, but they wanted to know how I thought through problems. And that was the same thing for Cirque du Soleil. They didn't care that I didn't have any experience in ticketing specifically, but they just want to know, how do you think through a problem, how do you approach it?
Very, very super cool. At what point in the program of the year did you get that job?
It was December to January. So the first interview was like mid-December, right before finals, and then I accepted the offer, I think, around mid-January.
Awesome. Okay, Lexi, let's move back to Disney for a second, and then my next question is going to be same question for EA Sports. Are you currently hiring at Disney in New York City in the sales department? And if you are you looking at early career talent such as we have here at Wake Forest? And if so, the best approach.
Disney always has jobs listed, and obviously, Raphael and I work in one little corner of Disney advertising, but we have parks, we have, there's lots of other, there's the cruise lines, there's lots of other facets. Yes, and I think for an entry level, I think we've got some MBAs in the room, right?
MSAs and MSAs.
Okay, got it. So I would say, like, if you're undergrad, probably the position to look for on Disney's career website, which is where I would tell you to go, because there's probably a lot of jobs open right now. I would tell you look for the coordinator role if you have no experience, and then some of the roles that Raquel actually mentioned, the account manager one is a great entry level, but it typically does look for like 1 to 2 years of experience. Like she mentioned she had the agency experience. So entry level, I would look for coordinator in the title. For a little bit more experience, I would say the account manager role is a great way to break into the advertising sales team. But I would say our career website has a lot more roles outside of what we specifically do.
I'm not sure how much knowledge you have about the analytics space down in Orlando. They've hired a couple of our business analytics students over the past few years since the program was started. And we had learned that the only way into those full-time jobs is through a full-time internship. Do you know anything about that? Is that still?
I don't. But that sounds right. I mean, there is the college program and I've had mentees in the college program from Disney, and it's a great experience. So I'm not surprised. There's a lot of time and effort. Even the internships we had in ad sales, in cultivating talent to bring them in the door. So that doesn't surprise me. And we usually have 2 seasons for interns, I believe. So the summer ones probably will go up sooner than later.
But you have 2 seasons. What's the other season outside of summer?
Fall. So we do have interns right now.
Right now. Okay. But none in the spring.
Not that I think it's more limited in the spring. The fall and the summer are the big ones.
Okay. Fantastic.
But I really don't have that much of a connection with some of the departments in Orlando, so I wouldn't know.
We've still got some alums who work there. So if you're interested in those analytics jobs down in the park, let me know. Okay. EA. Any open? Yes. Open jobs.
We do have internships for the summer currently available. Last year I had the opportunity to hire on my team. My team's a little bit more for more seasoned candidates, so folks that are coming in from like an MBA type level have about 4 to 5 years of experience coming in. So I don't have a current opening this summer. However, I do know that a lot of our adjacent teams, whether it's on FIFA, on Apex Legends, they're hiring for product, they're hiring for marketing, data analysts right now. And those are open to freshmen through juniors for those positions.
They're internships?
Yes.
On the product side?
On the product side, marketing and data analysts.
Any direct hires for recent grads or soon-to-be recent grads?
It's much harder. I would say search for anything with like an associate in front of it. If you're a new grad, either a senior or in the MSBA program, those are probably the ones you want to try to target. But I think, like you mentioned, we do hire a lot from just our pipeline of internships and converting them into full-time.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Questions. Who's got a question for the panelists? Anybody have a question? Look, take a note off of Aaron's, right? Off of his list of intentional networking. Say your name, your major, and who your questions for.
So, hi, I'm Callaway. I'm double majoring in econ and business and enterprise management. And then my question is for Aaron. So, when you're emailing all these different like producers and directors, what were you emailing them about? Were you asking specific questions or trying to fit 15 minutes in their schedule to talk to them?
Great question.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I think for me it became a little bit like, so in the world of producing, there's so many different kinds of producers that you can have. And so there were line producers that I would be emailing specifically like, hey, I'm working on a budget for friends. Indeed, do you have 10 minutes to hop on a call and go over this budget with me, since that's mainly what they do on set. So I kind of emailed them, tailoring it towards what they did, what their specific role was on set, and making sure that it came off the way of like, hey, I'm doing this thing, I'm learning this thing, and I would love your expertise to make sure that I'm headed in the right direction. I mean, anybody in entertainment, especially on my side, loves to talk about themselves. You know, any opportunity, I feel like that they got to be like, hey, you know, yes, this is what I would do, this is how I would do a script breakdown, this is how I would do a scene breakdown. Even though at some points in times I kind of already knew it, but it was just more like, how do I keep this conversation going? How do I make sure that they see that I am not just here asking for something, like, oh, please just give me this job or give me this thing. It was more like, hey, I'm looking to learn, I'm looking to grow, and I would like for you to be part of that process. And usually all of that would then turn around into a, well, I got this show, do you want to come on? With directors, it was kind of the same thing. It's kind of like, hey, here's this creative piece that I'm working on, here's the pitch deck, here's the one-sheeter, here's the budget, here's all of these things. I would love to get your notes or thoughts on X, Y, and Z. And they usually would respond because I think they really wanted to give something to someone and making, you know, yeah, I just didn't come across as like, I need a job, or like, I want to learn and grow in these areas, and I would love your help with that.
Next question.
So hi, I'm Mary Grace. I'm a theater major and theater minor. So I guess this is for Aaron, but also anybody else can chime in if they want to. When you're talking to all of these different people with all of these vastly different roles, how do you, like, for yourself, keep track of how, like, do you keep track of all of your emails and, like, who you're emailing and what their roles are? Do you have, like, a system that you use? Because I feel like I get super forgetful and things just get lost in the shuffle, especially with emails. So, like, any tips and tricks for that would be super appreciated.
I need to know this as well. So, Aaron, we'll start with you, and then Lexi, why don't you answer that next question?
Well, I was going to say Excel is your best friend. I literally have an Excel spreadsheet of the person's name, their contact information, what they specifically do on set, the notes section of, you know, like the things that they've done, their previous work that I may not even have been a part of, and then kind of like if I was introduced to that person through someone else, or if it was like the contact I made on my own, just kind of like, okay, I was introduced to X, Y, and Z by X, Y, and Z, so that I can remember, okay, this is how I met this person, this is how we have this connection, this is what they do. And I actually learned that from a producer that I work with. She was like, you need to start keeping a log of anyone and everyone that you meet. And Excel is your best friend when it comes to that.
Lexi's a huge she's a huge help for us in the Career Center. She's been so vital in my professional growth and the professional growth of a lot of students that I've had the opportunity to work with. So, Lexi, how do you keep yourself organized?
I mean, Erin's a
busy mom.
I'm an Outlook calendar girl. Like everything in my life is on my Outlook calendar, including I have 2 little kids, and obviously my husband and I both work full time, so everything is in there, and I use it as a resource to look back. To your point, Erin, so like if I meet with somebody and then I'm going to meet with them again, I will search my calendar, see what our last meeting was. I try to keep agendas as part of those. And that's really what I rely on, both like my Google Calendar and my Outlook calendar. So it's probably not the most perfect system. Yours sounds way better, but here we are. I think I'm an old dog. I can't learn new tricks at this point, but the calendar is sort of what keeps me honest. And that's, when I, in the morning, I drop my daughter off at school, I get on the bus, and the first thing I do is look at that calendar and just kind of determine how I'm going to attack my day, and even putting breaks in there and things like that, which sounds silly, but if you don't put them in, you're not going to get them.
It's a very helpful trick. I'm even older than Lexi is, and it's hard for me to put breaks in my calendar, but I do it, and it's lovely. What's your question?
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Crawford. I'm a politics major here, and I'm a senior. I'm planning on matriculating into law school, and I want to get into the entertainment space. How do you guys interact with your guys' legal team, and what matters do you guys do? And this is open to anyone on the call.
Anybody deal with legal?
We work with them all the time in advertising, for sure. We have contracts with advertisers, so that's an important piece of it. We also at Disney have standards and practices, obviously advertising to children, things like that. So we work with them all the time, and then also we bring in vendors. So like if we're working with a third party vendor, like a research vendor, for example, and we're going to work with them to partner on advertising research studies, we would bring in the legal team to help us, with the finer points of those contracts. So I would say I work with the legal team, and Rafa, feel free to co-sign it or disagree from your end, but we work with them pretty frequently in advertising sales, at least.
Raquel, do you work with legal?
Yeah, all the time. Like Lexi mentioned, especially like with these big deals that these advertisers have, they're had them for a few years as well. We need an agreement in place, so that's when we call in like the lawyers to detail, what's included, what's not included, budget, and any restraints. So yeah, we work with them a lot.
Anyone else?
We work with lawyers almost on a daily basis because you got to think about, we're very contract heavy as well. Like my cousin is an entertainment lawyer, and I send for my contracts. I work with them too, so, and then especially when it comes to creative pieces, especially if it's something that's documentary style or that's based off of a true story, or dealing with Staircase, was based off of a true story that happened in Durham, North Carolina, right? So we had to get a lot of the rights from the families that were still alive, and they had to be a part of our processes when it came to writing and different things like that. And that was huge when it came to HBO's legal department. That was a big thing for them. It almost took 11 years for me to even get this piece of writing even being able to be shot, because there was a lot of legal things that were coming up with the family. So I would say entertainment law is a huge part of especially producers' daily task or daily thing.
Parker, I saw you come off mute. Do you work with the legal team?
Well, I was just going to say only if something's going wrong or it might go wrong.
All right.
Can I just add one more point I can't see who asked the question, but I would say data privacy in particular would be a huge opportunity within media and advertising. Obviously, there's new laws that have been passed. There's different laws in Europe. I think that is a place that could be interesting it's not probably as fun as the entertainment law that maybe you think data and privacy is fun. But I think that is that could be an opportunity, because that is a very evolving space, and it crosses probably all of our worlds on this go, maybe just not advertising sales, I would imagine.
All right, our time is coming up, and so I want to be really respectful of that. My next question is for every panelist, and I'll go Lexi, I'll start with you, and then I'll go Raquel, Keith, Courtney, Aaron, Parker. Best advice for current students on trying to figure out what could possibly be next for them, and the best way to get in touch with you.
For me, LinkedIn is the best way to get in touch. And I would say the best advice, I'll give two pieces of advice. So I think one, oftentimes your weaker connections will be stronger for you in networking. So what I mean by that is you probably have some folks in your world that you're very close with. They probably know the same people that you do. So to try to get one connection beyond that, oftentimes will help you more because they have connections that your immediate network doesn't have access to. My advice to you as you're networking with alumni, and the great thing about Wake Forest is that it's big, but it's also small. And so what I mean by that is, for example, Disney, which is a really large organization, Raquel and I know each other through the Wake Forest Alumni Circle that we've fulfilled, and there's about 10 of us who don't have the same jobs, don't work together a lot, but we have, sort of, because Wake Forest is such a special place, we've established our alumni network within the company. So I would say my advice for you is, as you're networking with other alumni, is to sort of do what Erin said, to follow up, because I have had so many calls with students, giving them advice or helping them with a job, and then you sort of never hear from them again, and then 5 years later you run into them in an event, and they're like, oh, I talked to you, and like XYZ, and I think just, even if that person doesn't immediately fulfill a role or get you a role, like just keeping in touch and letting them know what you're up to just keeps expanding your network. Like if someone's taken the time to have that conversation with you, to just send them, regular updates. Hey, I got a new job, or that advice you gave me really helped me in my next interview. Like people want to have that feedback and that two-way dialogue. So I would say you can be persistent without being annoying and stay top of mind.
I'm going straight to Lori Sykes and telling her that I spent time with Erin today. She's going to be so excited. All right, Raquel, what's the best way to get in touch and best advice?
You can get in touch with me via LinkedIn or email. I'm available on both. And I guess my advice would be everybody has different timelines. Don't compare your journey to someone else's journey, and trust that in the end it's all going to work out. You're going to get that job. And just, try not to be so hard on yourself.
Excellent advice. Stay in your own lane. I say that all the time. It's very hard to do. All right, Pete.
Yeah, you can also find me on LinkedIn and shoot me a message if you want to talk more about EA Sports. My best advice is to find a promoter, someone that's going to really challenge you to be better than your best. For me at Wake Forest, that was Mike Crespi. He always pushed me to go beyond what I was currently focused on because he believed in me. So just find someone that believes in you, ask them the tough questions, and learn as much as you can.
That's such excellent advice. Mike Crespi's going to be so excited to know that he's still here as well. All right, Courtney, best way to get in touch and best advice.
You can hit me up on LinkedIn or my email. Either one is fine. My best advice in both the initial job search and beyond that is be a little bit selfish sometimes because you got to look out for yourself. No one else is going to look out for you as much as you can, and do things that are hard. So when I changed jobs, that was terrifying to have to get a new job, but I knew it was what was best for me. So I pushed myself to do that, and I do not regret it at all. So be your own biggest supporter.
Great advice. Parker?
Like others, email and LinkedIn, best way to get in contact. My advice is try to find something you actually enjoy, because 40 to 50 hours of a week you're going to be spending doing that job, and you'll sleep some of that, and even when you're not working, you're thinking about things. So just, enjoy it. Don't find something just because it has a bigger paycheck to it versus something you're actually going to dread going to work every day.
I don't like the sell. I'm just going to take this and mark this off my list. You don't like